This video is all about the brain, and the brain and the spinal cord make up something called the central nervous system. What we're going to do is take a look at the various parts of the brain in the first part of this video. So what we have, the area here is called the cerebral cortex. Just underneath that, we have an area called the cerebellum. That's just down here. And then this section is called the medulla. Just to give you some reference to previous videos, the little section in there is the pituitary gland. So that's the gland that's involved, for example, with the production of various hormones in the menstrual cycle, etc. So what we're now going to do is just take a look at what the various parts of the brain do. So the cerebral cortex is where we'll start. So the cerebral cortex is basically the part of the brain for consciousness, memory, intelligence, and language. If we now take a look at the cerebellum, so that's this section here, down here. This is concerned with muscle contraction and therefore coordination of movement. And finally, if we take a look at the medulla, which is this section here, the medulla controls our unconscious activities such as breathing. Now, scientists called neuroscientists study the brain, and they do this in a number of ways. They, for example, study patients with brain damage. So if a patient has a small part of the brain that is damaged, they can look at the effect of that damage on the function of that person's body. They can also electrically stimulate parts of the brain, so they can put electrodes into certain areas of the brain and see which parts of the body respond to those electrodes. And the other thing that they can use is something called an MRI scan. So that's a magnetic resonance imaging scanner, and it enables you to look at a detailed picture of the brain structure. And what they can do is they can activate different parts of the brain. So, for example, play music or try and ask somebody to recall memory whilst they are in the MRI scanner. Now, neuroscientists have a problem because the brain is very delicate and can be very easily damaged. So anything linked to the brain can be very difficult to study, but also conditions can be very difficult to treat. Treatments that have been developed, or some examples of treatments that have been developed, are as follows. So Parkinson's disease, which is a condition whereby muscle contractions basically take place out of control. You can actually use electrical stimulation to calm that response. And seizures, epilepsy, we can now use surgery to deal or try to deal with those. Okay.